30 years imprisoned in secrecy, a secret vault associated with the most mesmerizing icon in the show business world was eventually opened, and what was found left everyone speechless. Behind covers of dust and secrecy, the long-forgotten room contained more than a mere recording. It bore explosive pieces of a personal life that Sammy Davis Jr. never disclosed. Scandal rumors, dark clouds of Hollywood's heyday, and explosive secrets kept hidden for too long were suddenly revealed, rewriting all we believed we knew. What did they actually discover in Sammy Davis Jr.'s vault? If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel Spark Science, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. Each vault has a tale to tell, but this one starts much earlier than the time the lock was ever turned. To comprehend what lurked in the shadows, we must first examine the man who constructed his existence beneath the most shining beams. By the time most children were learning their ABCs, Sammy Davis Jr. was already taking the stage. Born in 1925, he spent his childhood traveling with his father and his uncle as a member of the Wilmaston Trio. Entertaining wasn't something he fell into by accident, it was what he breathed. By his teenage years, Sammy was out on stage with the presence of a seasoned pro that many older entertainers could only wish for. It wasn't a single talent that made Sammy special, it was all of it. He could sing with velvet smoothness, dance with a firecracker's intensity, perform comedy bits with snappy timing, and slide into eerie impressions that had people laughing with their mouths open. He even succeeded in the movies. With so many facets, no wonder he was given the nickname that stayed with him forever, Mr. Show Business. By the early 1950s, Broadway was beginning to pick up on what nightclub crowds had learned already. In 1956, his production Mr. Wonderful made him a Broadway star. Hollywood soon took notice, casting him in roles that featured not only his singing and dancing, but also his acting charisma. Still, it was his association with a legendary troupe of performers, the Rat Pack, that would solidify his position in American history. In 1941, when Sammy was just a teenager singing with the Wilmaston Trio, he met Sinatra at the time of a shared engagement. Sinatra took notice of the young performer, and over the years, that chance encounter grew into one of the most important friendships of Sammy's life. By the late 50s, Sammy had become an official part of Sinatra's inner circle, the Rat Pack. Alongside Sinatra and Dean Martin, he was part of a trio that redefined entertainment in Las Vegas. But behind the glamour were real battles. At the Sands Hotel, Sammy could wow sold-out crowds night after night, but because of his race, he wasn't allowed to stay there as a guest. Sinatra wasn't having it. He reportedly told hotel management flat out, "If a casino resort would not let Sammy in, we're not coming in." That wasn't merely talk, it literally forced real change. And when night fell, Vegas belonged to the Rat Pack. They'd spend the daylight hours filming Ocean's 11, and by midnight they were at work again, lighting the Copa room up in a way no one had ever seen. First out would be Frank, serene and in control. Next would be Dean, cocktail in his hand, crooning with that effortless charm that made it sound as if he weren't trying at all. And then, when it was Sammy's turn to take the stage, he didn't just sing or dance, he danced like nobody else. One minute he had them laughing, the next he was dancing in a manner nobody else could. He maintained the energy level, and the crowd went wild for it. Crowd didn't just observe the Rat Pack perform, they were part of the show. Each evening seemed like history in the making, although the audience wasn't aware of it at the time. Sammy's career wasn't on just the stage or screen. He recorded The Candy Man in 1972, which was his signature song. It went to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and remained so for weeks. For those who never got a glimpse of him in person, the song brought Sammy's voice into homes, radios, and record players nationwide. It wasn't his most sophisticated work, but it demonstrated his capability to dispense unadulterated joy through music. But Sammy's tale was never solely about the limelight. He emerged during a time when black performers were openly discriminated against in the very same spots where they topped the bill. They might sing for sold-out crowds in Vegas but had to exit through the back door when they left. They were not allowed to stay in the hotels where they performed, and they couldn't even sit as guests in the audience. That humiliation Sammy understood all too well. With his rise to fame came his increasing boldness to protest. He turned down bookings at segregationist clubs and joined other performers and activists in calling for reform. Gradually, Las Vegas opened up. By the late 1960s, black celebrities and black tourists were able to partake of the Strip without being relegated to the periphery. Sammy's voice, presence, and friendships had led to that change. What made Sammy Davis Jr. unforgettable was not merely his incredible talent, but his toughness. Audiences glimpsed the smile, the tap shoes, the quick jokes, but beneath it was a man who trained assiduously, who struggled quietly but intensely for respect, and who transmuted pain into beauty. Every show was confidence, delight, and defiance in one. For every standing ovation Sammy Davis Jr. got, there was a tempest raging somewhere in the background. And when they did, they uncovered aspects of his life that most people never saw coming. Sammy Davis Jr. was loved by millions, perhaps, but fame never protected him from controversy. His career frequently went in sync with the very storms swirling around him. Some of them were fueled by the eras in which he lived, others by decisions he made independently. One of the earliest and most vocal controversies revolved around his marriage to Swedish actress May Britt in 1960. Interracial marriage was illegal in a great many states at the time and widely frowned upon across much of America. When Sammy first met May in 1959, things were different. She wasn't consumed by the racial divides that defined America. For her, love was love, and she didn't understand why color should determine who a person could love. The world, though, didn't share her vision. When the two made their engagement public in 1960, it hit headlines nationwide. Overnight, May's studio contract vanished. Hollywood made it abundantly clear that her decision to marry a black man would cost her a career. They had initially intended to get married in a synagogue, but hate intervened. Hostile telephone calls started going to the Temple Israel of Hollywood, warning that they would be in trouble if the wedding proceeded. The trustees were concerned and Rabbi Nussbaum withdrew, so it was left up to his assistant, Rabbi William Kramer, to go through with it. Rabbi Kramer was a fan of Sammy, and he went ahead when other people refused to. On November 13, 1960, amidst a canopy of flowers at Sammy's house in the Hollywood Hills, they finally exchanged vows. Security was tight, guests were nervous, but the couple persisted. Frank Sinatra served as proud best man, and Peter Lawford signed the marriage certificate. It was a wedding shrouded in both joy and terror. The backlash was quick and merciless afterward. Sammy was jeered and given fascist chants when he arrived in London. In America, they received hate mail in the form of venomous letters, neo-Nazis protested outside his performances in Washington, D.C., and bomb threats were made in cities along the way. He was afraid to leave the house most of the time without protection and ensured May was never without security. Their marriage was controversial to the public eye and criticized consistently, rather than getting admiration. May spent a lot of her own life in those years stuck in what she afterward called a form of gilded cage. Each public outing was fraught, and even within their home, the ever-present threat of hatred and censure loomed over them. While Sammy rode fame and scandal with brio and brazenness, May's existence was tighter, circumscribed by peril encircling their union. Their relationship also had political costs. Prior to his wedding, Sammy had worked on behalf of John F. Kennedy in 1960, performing at rallies and fundraisers with the Rat Pack. Kennedy's operatives, however, were concerned about the potential reception in swing states to an interracial marriage. Through Sinatra, they requested Sammy delay his wedding until after Election Day. He complied, setting aside his personal contentment for political expediency. But following Kennedy's election, Sammy's anticipated invitation to the inaugural ball never materialized. The signal was unmistakable: America wasn't prepared for a black performer to share the spotlight with his white wife at one of the country's most prominent events. For Sammy, it was a harsh betrayal. Their marriage endured almost 8 years despite the backlash. May converted to Judaism, quit her career, and devoted herself to their family. Sammy was a very committed father, raising his children in Jewish customs and cultural pride. But by 1968, it was over. The reasons were not as out in the open as their fights, although rumors of infidelity and irreconcilable differences filled the air. May had a more subdued life and raised together their daughter Tracy and 2 adopted sons. Religion soon became another flashpoint. Following a near-death car crash in 1954, Sammy started learning about Judaism. He converted officially, taking on the discipline, identity, and foundation it provided him. His decision stunned America, though. Critics believed he had left his roots behind or was doing it for publicity, while others ridiculed him. Sammy remained firm, believing Judaism saved his life by providing him with meaning. Nevertheless, he suffered insults for being black and for being Jewish, with him being among the few who had experienced hate from both sides simultaneously.